Okay, we are back with our post-speech commentary. Bienvenidos de regreso. Estamos aquí con nuestro comentario post-discurso. Colin, vamos a empezar contigo. We're going to start with you.
Yeah.
You know, we're out there. We got our sunburn. We earned it today.
Yeah.
What was your sense of AMLO's speech here today in Querétaro?
Well, I mean, let's start with the positive. I think, you know, he is by far and away strongest when he's talking about the destructive legacy of 30 years of neoliberalism in Mexico. He's strongest when he's talking about education as a right. He's strongest when he's talking about rolling back the privatization of water, though I do note he didn't challenge any of the other privatizations. I mean, you know, that's when the guy is most powerful, and I think that's when his message most resonates with people in the audience. There's absolutely no question of that. Where he's weakest, I think, is where he you know, is constantly trying to make reassurances that he's not going to upset the vote, that he's not going to challenge the property rights of any of the powerful corporations or the financial sector. He's weakest, I think, in his comments today about the armed forces. I mean, this is something which, you know, is sort of like the elephant in the room. He had a great opportunity to say that the armed forces would be brought back under civilian control.
Actually brought under civilian control. They never have been.
Or brought under civilian control.
Yeah.
But no, he said he would be appointing a general as the Minister of the Armed Forces and Defense. So, you know, I think you hear two things. The third thing I'd say that's really a strong point that many of the other local candidates were making from the stage, that Morena is first and foremost a social movement and not just a political party. And I think that's something that might sound a little bit strange to the ears of people from outside the country, but is an idea that many of the Morena supporters clearly believe in, clearly support. That this is, in a sense, both, yes, a traditional political party running for office, but it's also a movement from below. And I think, you know, the combination of those two things is really the most hopeful aspect of the whole election campaign.
Déjeme traducir hasta aquí. Es lo que Colin está comentando, es que AMLO realmente la parte más fuerte de su discurso hoy y en otros días es realmente su ataque frontal contra el neoliberalismo y sus secuelas, digamos, ¿no? Cuando realmente está hablando de la educación, cuando está hablando de salud, cuando está hablando, hoy habló tanto de proteger a los de tercera edad como realizar un programa cívico para jóvenes, ¿no? O becas para estudiar o puestos de aprendices, ¿no? Que vamos a comentar tal vez en un momento. Esto es un momento más fuerte, ¿no? Aunque la única cosa que prometió revertir en cuanto a privatizaciones fue lo del agua, que es un decreto muy reciente. No prometió revertir ninguna privatización, ya se ha efectuado. Básicamente aceptando el status quo tal como está. No privatizar nada más, pero tampoco no ir en contra de este concepto desde hace 30 años, ¿no? También Colin comenta de su parte más débil es cuando reforzó esta idea de que el secretario de Marina y el secretario de Defensa van a ser militares. Esto hubiera sido una gran oportunidad de poner civiles como jefes de las Fuerzas Armadas en el gabinete. Él desaprovechó esta oportunidad y ahora va a reforzar esta idea de que esos dos miembros del gabinete deben ser militares. Mala idea, tomando en cuenta la historia de los movimientos progresistas en América Latina, ¿no? Y también Colin comenta esta idea de que Morena realmente es visto por sus partidarios más como un movimiento social y no solamente como un partido electorero. Colin, I think one of the strongest parts of the speech also, in my point of view, was basically he laid out what in effect amounts to a federal jobs guarantee. Something that Bernie Sanders is mentioning in the States. All young people will have the right either to study with a scholarship or will automatically be enrolled in an apprenticeship for a technical job, a paid apprenticeship.
Right, yeah.
That basically is a federal jobs guarantee,
Yeah.
which is something that, it's an idea that goes back to the New Deal.
Yeah.
I think that was a very strong idea he mentioned there. And also this idea of self-sufficiency, which is mentioned in other speeches. But today he went beyond what he'd said in previous speeches that I heard, in the sense of he said, we don't want to just produce our own food.
Yeah.
But we also want to make our own clothes. We also want to make our own shoes.
Yeah.
We also want to make all of our own products here, which is, that's the idea of import, what economists, I think, call import substitution, which I think is a false term because that kind of provides the idea that kind of what is the norm is importation, and so you have to substitute imports. Yeah. And what he's saying is no. Traditionally we did make what we needed. Yeah. Why can't we go back to that, which would really break the chains of the neoliberal dependence that globalization, makes.
Yeah, all of that makes perfect sense. Reversing the destruction that NAFTA has wrought on the Mexican countryside, for Mexico to be a net producer of maize, corn, of beans, of rice, and so on and so forth. However, if you're going to do that, you have to challenge the basic logic of the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Right.
And he doesn't come out and say that. In fact, he says, we're in favor of NAFTA. It's possible that you could renegotiate NAFTA to make all of those things possible within the context of the Mexican economy, but it's really difficult to see how unless you have a really clear plan that this thing that was called NAFTA, where the market decides everything, is essentially going to end. So. Yes and no, I would say on that. The other thing I would say that I didn't mention before is that López Obrador rarely talks about foreign affairs, and if there's a big dark cloud hanging over Mexico right now, it's the force of the empire, to put it bluntly. All of the policies that Trump is imposing, from tariffs to the wall, to the treatment of Mexican migrants, the separation of children from their families, all of those things are happening right now, and I think López Obrador needs to be much more forceful in targeting those issues and saying that no, sorry, Mexico's not going to play by those kind of rules, and Mexico is not going to have a neo-imperialist agenda imposed upon it by the United States.
He did say that Mexico is no longer going to accept foreign economic ideas. He's
right.
Like, this idea of structural reforms, all of these ideas imposed by the International Monetary Fund. Yeah. He said the educational reform was basically a recipe of the IMF. He said we're no longer going to listen to international organizations like the IMF. And that he was very clear. Yeah. But you're right, there's this loud silence with regards to the most recent.
It's fine to say, these foreign ideas that were somehow imported into Mexico, but they're not just ideas. They are real forces in the world. And unless you have concrete policies of how you're going to confront those forces, then it just sounds like rhetoric. I'm sounding more critical than I felt at the rally, because I thought his rally speech was really quite inspiring. I think when he goes hard against the agenda of neoliberalism, especially, that's when it resonates with people.
Yeah, para hacer un resumen ahora en español, yo mencioné que un tema que me parece particularmente fuerte en el discurso es cuando habló de las jóvenes que van a recibir una garantía o de estudio por medio de una beca o trabajo por medio de un puesto de aprendiz pagado. Y esto es como una garantía de estudio o empleo, que es una idea que remonta en Estados Unidos al Nuevo Trato y antes. La idea de que garantizado para cualquier joven, o estudio o empleo. No, nada ya de ninis, nada ya de la generación perdida de esos jóvenes ociosos que son blancos muy fáciles para el crimen organizado, ¿no? También habló mucho de la autosuficiencia en cuanto a no solo alimentos, sino también en cuanto a zapatos, ropa y otros artículos básicos. Yo creo que eso fue un punto fuerte, aunque Colin recalcó, creo que es importante también, que sí, pero, ¿no? Sí está bien hablar de la autosuficiencia en muchas cosas, lo que los economistas hablan de sustitución de importaciones. Sin embargo, si no se desafía el marco de NAFTA, del TLC, en el que México está como camisa de fuerzas, va a ser realmente muy difícil realizar una economía autosuficiente dentro de las reglas de NAFTA y la organización WTO, la Organización Mundial de Comercio y todo eso. No son solamente ideas, sino que son fuerzas reales que están actuando en el mundo y hay que tener un plan para enfrentar a esas fuerzas. Otra cosa que menciona Colin, que es que hubo una ausencia remarcable de discurso o respuesta en cuanto a Trump, en cuanto a la idea de las aranceles, en cuanto a lo que está pasando, el escándalo inexplicablemente horrible de los niños siendo separados de sus padres. En Estados Unidos todo el discurso amenazador de Trump no valió ni una sola mención hoy. AMLO sí lo ha mencionado en días anteriores, en otros contextos, no lo mencionó hoy como que regresó a sus grandes éxitos, ya para ir cerrando campaña, pero es notable. And I would end with this question, or this thinking out loud, Colin, to start wrapping up. Is this perhaps a reflection of 30 years of neoliberal subservience, that candidates now almost tacitly accept U.S. dominance so much to the point that they're not even used to commenting on foreign affairs anymore?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's true. You know, the effect of neoliberalism has been a victory of the right in many senses, in terms of the policy agenda, but also just the whole discourse. You know, such that politicians on the left or left of center have accepted much of that discourse as a reality that somehow can't be challenged, can't be changed, and I think that's really tragic. And I think that's where you see the gap between the discourse of politicians who have in many ways accepted that discourse and ordinary people who have been on the sharp end of neoliberal policies and want those policies fundamentally changed. And I think let's give AMLO his due. He's promised a lot of very good things, but I think the key thing is going to be whether that social movement that he himself has created can keep the pressure on, keep pushing his government leftward, so that you can actually see in 6 years' time really fundamental changes in the entire social structure of Mexico.
Yeah. Para terminar en español, yo pregunté si eso de no hablar tanto de política exterior en el discurso de hoy, en otros, es un reflejo de como 30 años de aceptar tanto el consenso neoliberal y que México se ha asumido un papel tan sumiso frente a Estados Unidos que los políticos ya ni siquiera están acostumbrados a comentar asuntos exteriores, cuando dijo que sí está de acuerdo que la victoria ideológica de la derecha ha sido en eso de que los políticos de centro izquierda en muchos casos han aceptado muchas de las pautas de la derecha y pues casi como un sentido común y no los desafían tanto como deberían. Y termino con la idea que realmente el trabajo del movimiento social, que es Morena, va a ser de ir y seguir empujando al gobierno hacia la izquierda para que realmente veamos cambios realmente estructurales y no solamente superficiales en muchas cosas, que haya realmente un cambio profundo y estructural en el gobierno. Y eso obviamente toca también la política exterior, que no puede seguir siendo una de omisión, una de sumisión y uno de aceptar lo que es discursos y actos y políticas cada vez más hostiles por parte de el gobierno de Trump. So with that, we'll close for now. Vamos a cerrar por ahora. We were going to get the whole speech up. We had some technical problems because the line was saturated. Tuvimos unos problemas técnicos durante el discurso porque había tanto celular que estaba grabando. But we're going to get the whole speech up. Vamos a subir el discurso completo ahorita cuando lleguemos a la casa para que puedan ver el discurso completo. So you can see the whole speech. We'll get that up in a minute. Tomorrow we're heading back to Mexico City for the last week of the campaign, and we'll be back live from there. Nos vamos a regresar mañana a la Ciudad de México para seguir con nuestras transmisiones desde la capital del país. So,
sí.
Regresamos.
Adiós.